February 12th. And we have a lot of people here. First up, I don't know if we need to do. Yeah, whatever. We don't need to introductions today. Everybody knows themselves. I have a hard 2:00 stop I need today. And I know Mai has a 1:30 she stated, and she has to leave. So we'll see if we can get through all this. First up's approval of the minutes from January 27th, 2026. Any comments or questions on that, or? Motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second?
I'll second that.
And moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. That's unanimous. Time for public comment. Any public comment, David?
Mr. Chair, I just want to make sure staff sent the letter that. Oh, is it it's on the agenda, and I just wanted to make sure this was submitted for public comment.
Is that on the
Mr. Forte's letter? Email?
Oh,
It's included.
it's in the.
There's how close I paid attention to the agenda already.
In item C, there's also the petition to oppose the Gordon is agreeing 50th Avenue roundabout.
Right. From last week, we got the petitions. We just want to make sure everyone got a copy of one sheet. Now there's like 50 sheets. So we have electronically, of course. We didn't want to make the agenda any bigger as far as paper wise, but yeah.
Just for completeness of the record.
Yeah.
And then we did follow up after the packet went out. Mr. Forte had sent us 2 comments, and Ray Jackson did give a response, which we emailed, but that was not included in the initial packet. So that was, let me show that again.
For the record.
How many signatures did you have on the Gordon Road project roundabout?
Was it 297? I think was the number.
I think that's
It might say in the minutes.
I think it's important for this.
I don't know if this is the right time, but as I was reading through the packet and reading through the letter and the petition, I was wondering, did the roundabout that was built north of Monmouth, did that receive the same kind of public comment and concerns from the ag community
So,
as this one is?
Yeah.
Good.
yeah, I was told if it didn't work, they had a noose tied to the bumper and it was laying back of his truck. He's with my neck and see how fast he could drag me around it. No pressure whatsoever. Yeah, so no, it was scrutinized very well. So, and that was built for all their big machines and everything. Well, and it's working out amazing.
oh, good.
Traffic's.
And we're designing one up off of Elon and Arndt, and they did what they call it, a roundabout rodeo, where they actually design it in the field and they invite all the farmers out to make sure their equipment will make it when they
Fun after
design it. Yeah, it's called a roundabout rodeo.
But during the traffic rush of Thanksgiving and Christmas, they were backing up at Monmouth Independence Light and the roundabout people were just flowing through.
Oh,
So it worked out really well.
hey, roundabout.
I don't know if I will go that far, but
It's
yeah,
better
they got their place.
Is that an approved project in the transportation system plan? Commissioner Cameron?
It is in our plan, but the project itself is just had money.
My software's calling me.
I'm not on.
I can't quite turn it off. It's not one place to turn it off.
Over there.
So, yeah, yes, but it's just design is in there right now.
Okay. I
Thank
just, we often talk about how the projects have their broad socialization and community approval from their inclusion in the TSP. And then when I see a petition like this, I wonder how durable the memory is. of
Okay, well,
community members.
Lonnie's not on, is she? But Lonnie could speak to all the outreach that's going on out there.
Yeah, I'm not-
Including Zelensky, who was here and circled the wagons on this petition. So it's not far enough down the road that we can't make sure that their concerns are met.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
I think that's great. I mean, the world that I work in of land use planning, most of the pushback comes when the machines are pulling up and they're, putting a shovel in the ground across the street. And that is way too late for the public to make a change to what is going to happen across the street from their house. And so I want to acknowledge the challenges of community outreach and the fact that people kind of do need to be reminded again and again and again in order to build that sort of community support around the projects that we are funding. And just this seems to me an example of that.
Okay. Timeframes, let's go to agenda D, the congestion management process. Ray Jackson.
Go in your packets, one of the shorter documents you received. The update to the congestion management process for SKATS. Yeah. So I'm going to do a brief overview of what a CMP is, a congestion management process, and also explain what is in the update. Since most of you, a number of you weren't here 4 years ago when we adopted the last update. The CMP is a process of looking and identifying where congestion is on the regional roads. It's federally mandated for all MPOs over 200,000. SKATS has had one since 2003 to 2005, and it's been updated every 4 years. The contents of the CMP, there are 12 sections that brief discussions about how we're defining vehicle congestion, linking it, the CMP with the long-range plan, since it is a supporting document for the long-range plan. We use the goals of the long-range plan and the objectives when thinking about strategies. We identify the corridors of interest and how we're collecting the data and analyzing it to find where congestion is happening. And then, of course, the strategies that the local jurisdictions, ODOT and Transit District, are implementing and how well they're working. For congestion, we can think of it as having 4 dimensions: duration, intensity, variability, and extent. And these will, excuse me, these will vary for each congestion location and type, and also in geographic area of the within SKATS. Congestion can also be thought of in 2 major, whether it's recurring or non-recurring. So recurring is the ones we're all familiar with daily. It's always crowded. It's always congested on this road at this time because of either a signal or too much volume, bottlenecks. Non-recurring are it's caused by the weather. It's caused by a crash that happens. It might be work zone related. Those are the ones that have the variability that annoy the public a lot more than just normal congestion that you can really think about and know that it's going to happen, so it isn't as aggravating. With the data that's available to us in the software platforms that we have, we can look at the CMP corridors. And in 2024, this is showing that the cause of congestion is primarily signals on the corridors, with unclassified being number 2. The software program couldn't figure out what the actual was causing that, whether it was weather, holiday, or bottlenecks.
Describe Wilsonville.
Wilsonville is, yeah, I think that's a knowable one, but it's outside our area, so we don't care.
Good call.
So we have in the long range plan, we have a set of goals, which I'll be discussing later today, and we also have objectives. And so we're using the objectives in the long range plan to help us look at the strategies that are possible and figure out which ones are better mesh with meeting our goals and objectives in the area. And we're using, for the objectives, limiting peak hour congestion, improving safety, providing multimodal options, and maximizing the efficiency of the existing system to help pick the strategies that are being implemented. Currently, we have 14 corridors. When we started this 20-some years ago, I had a very optimistic idea. Oh, we're going to do all the roads that are major in the area. Back 20 years ago, that was very unrealistic because we had people drive around with a GPS and a data recorder, and they needed someplace to turn around safely. And so we whittled it down to 15. It's now down to 14. These
Is
are
it
just
still their means of collecting information?
no foreshadowing. So there's also, this is just meant to be higher volume routes, and they're composed mainly of the national highway system, which are, all federally funded, and most of them have transit service on at least a segment. We measure congestion with the travel time index, turning time index, and some other measures. All this comes from the data that we have, which is collected from INRIX, collected by INRIX, which is a third-party vendor. And so they collect data from vehicles that have GPS and data on it. So they're getting billions of points every second across the country that go up into a cloud and are collected. And so it's getting you time, place, and velocity. RIDIS is the software package from the University of Maryland that ODOT provides us access to. So they also provide us access to INRIX data. And so the RIDIS will do all the heavy crunching of all those billions of data points for a year along the corridor. So we can say, here's the travel time index, here's a nice map of bottlenecks, here's the speed at certain times, and we can do a lot of analysis. And it's a lot easier than it was 20 years ago when it was collected by essentially hand, and run through a program. That was bad old days.
Yeah.
So we have 8 types of congestion management strategies, 8 categories. Pricing is one that is not implemented in the area currently, could be in the future, but for all the other strategies or other categories, there's at least 2 to 6 strategies or more for each category, and they're implemented either region-wide, so the Traffic Signal Control Center, Transit's Transportation Option Program, region-wide because that's the scale that it makes sense. Or it could be corridor-focused. So if you're doing a project on Cordon Road, perhaps, and you put in a roundabout, that helps safety, that also helps congestion, but it's specific to that location. The CMP was last updated in 2021. We have a 4-year cycle of update. This time we updated the data for congestion, positive congestion graph. We also added a new appendix E, which is evaluating the effectiveness of the strategies using the measures that we have available. All this was reviewed by the TAC and recommended for adoption by you guys. The CMP is also a continuous process. If you recall last year, sometime after like July through September, I don't remember when, I did a corridor reports. We'll do that again this year, yearly corridor reports for each 14 that say, here's what's happening with them. That can go into identifying solutions that might be needed or further study as suggested by Mr. Fortin. Strategies that we are implementing are identified in the long-range plan and funded in the TIP. And we have a page on our transportation slide that is just dedicated to the CMP that has all the corridor reports and also has an interactive map to let you see some of the characteristics of the corridors that might be influenced. Congestion. So I realize that was a very quick overview of a somewhat, well, it's a short document, but it's a meaty subject. So if there's any questions on the CMP in general or this update, I'll take those now. Otherwise, afterwards, the request is to adopt the resolution for this document.
Any questions for Ray?
have one. When we look at the strategies that we are using, what's working well? I mean, I know it's, trying to get there.
Right, and so there's also, you can look at, the strategies are presented in a couple places. What's working well is that things are working well is in conjunction with each other. So transit is working well. We've learned from COVID that working from home works well.
Yeah.
That actually was a big win. Then and some other one that, it's some of them, the adaptive signal controls, interconnected. There are other ones that haven't been implemented as much, and so mixed use zoning, we don't have enough information to say one way or another. So the evaluation in Appendix E is a first step to just show here's basically the baseline, and then we can look back a couple of years. COVID has made defining what works well doesn't change so much travel patterns. And so as we get further away from COVID, it might be easier to understand which strategies are going.
Decrease.
Yeah.
Oh,
7 vehicle hours per capita. 3.
Michael, you got a hand up there.
Sorry, that was the
Cursor.
He keeps unmuting, so maybe he has a comment.
Yeah.
Michael, do you have a comment?
No.
Okay.
Someone mute their laptop now because there's a really bad echo.
Yeah. I think it's the mayor. Mayor, we're going to mute you because we're getting a lot of feedback from your feed.
It's like a truck.
Can you do that, Desiree?
Yeah, but it just keeps coming unmuted, so.
Okay.
There we go. Okay, so I have a motion for,
Question. Sure. So all 14 of these are gonna be in our plan? Congestion, all 14 that are on that map.
Yeah, those are the corridors that we looked at today.
Yeah, so, what is there plans for, I'm looking for the plans. I didn't see plans.
Plans are, so the confusing with this is a process document and how we look at stuff. And so how we, in the corridor reports, for each corridor, we list which projects will be implemented for that corridor. So on Cordon, it will list whatever
So for,
in the long range plan.
so we've taken some policies in Cordon where no more ingress egress, no new ingress. We added lanes, turn lanes.
Yeah, lanes, interconnect the signals.
Yep.
And there might be transit service on part of it. There's the, the Cordon Kubler study identified pedestrian and bike facilities on the west side that would be included. So it's things like that. Whatever's in the financially constrained plan is listed in the corridor reports for each corridor that will be implemented.
So when you look at Cordon Road, for example, on the south end where it intersects with Kubler, that's a problem, serious problem, right? At times. So is it isolated to different areas on the corridor? Because on the north end, we made a lot of improvements.
We're just identifying the entire corridor, not, that would be when, like in the corridor study, they identified solutions. We haven't brought those into the long range plan yet because we updated it.
Right.
So once we do that, we spelled out the south end of that corridor. These are, and some of the corridors, Table 8 lists the strategies by corridor that are currently in operation. The future, there are future strategies that could be used that are not funded or haven't been identified. And these are, again, corridor wide, not specific to a particular location on the corridors.
Okay.
I have a quick question on the corridors. Maybe it's a quick question. It would seem to me that as we implement these strategies and leave the congestion, that the corridor might become uncongested and no longer be a corridor of study. Does that ever happen?
No,
Uh,
never get that far.
do we ever add like additional stretches of a corridor?
We have not added any additional corridors. You know, I took one corridor off because it was duplicated by two others. And so we have a corridor that goes up Broadway into Keizer on River Road. That was duplicating. Then there's also there was one that was going up Broadway.
So like direct overlap, is that what you
Yeah,
mean?
direct overlap. And so
Yeah.
coming down
Don't need
the
to double
parkway.
count
So
congestion.
no, and it confuses people. And so it's like, but we haven't added additional ones. I mean, there are a couple that could be added, but now that we can do shorter segments, but if there are planning studies for roads, we can provide the data for that as well. So it's just a matter of keeping this manageable so people can read it and find something as opposed to a specific low order that isn't located, isn't included that we could do when they do a planning study.
And then last question, the Mr. Forty's comment suggested using this information to conduct additional study that would get us to more problem solving than is available in the congestion management plan. What is the feasibility of conducting something like that?
For Mr. Forty's specific comments, we contacted ODOT, i.e. Brandon, about 22 West, and currently, they'll put it, they don't have money currently to do a study. They'll put it on their to-do list for the next biennium. And that's part of the process of just when we have a problem area, talking with the jurisdiction that owns it and seeing if they have the capacity to do the study. But it's better for them to, who can be supporting, it's better for them to own it.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Just a statement. So State Street is on here as congestion.
It's a corridor. It's a corridor, yes.
Yeah. And the city of Salem's gonna take it from 4 lanes down to 2 lanes? Or the center lane?
Yes.
So how does that help with congestion?
Because then you'll have a center turn lane instead of having people stopping in the travel lane to turn. So going from.
Okay, but then the bus, there's no turnouts for buses. So if you're going out of town at 5 o'clock and the bus is there, are people gonna go out into the center lane to pass the bus?
I don't know.
Be interesting.
To have enforcement and then they won't.
My point being, there'd be more congestion.
Stay away from State Street. Yeah,
What?
stay away from State Street.
Well, Mission's already congested. People use State Street as a escape out of downtown. Center Street is congested, right? Is that on here?
Yes. We did most of the routes coming in and out of
Yeah.
downtown.
Market is not.
Market is not, because there was no good place to turn around in Rosehill.
No. Sorry.
Safely.
So,
Well, you know, depending on
Right.
where you want it, it's like the other side of Lancaster, do you turn around there, come back, you know, what makes sense on Market? And then on this side, the west side of Market, do you go all the way to Commercial? Do you go to the school, turn around there? So it's.
okay.
Yeah, I'll echo your concerns on State Street project. I came back at 5 o'clock on State Street heading east. And when the light would turn red, there was 15 to 20 cars backed up in both lanes. We put both into one lane, whether you're turning left or not. We're not turning left. I was just trying to get through town. Roll them onto one lane. Now you're back over a block. It's gonna be a major issue for access and just congestion.
I think Portland Road, Pine and Silverton Road, that intersection is becoming a problem as well. It gets really backed up, the turn lane by Center 50 plus to where your middle lane going north is the turn lane to turn onto Pine, and navigating around that gets really tricky.
I just looked up, why do road diets help with congestion? They eliminate the weaving chaos that slows everyone down. Speeds become more consistent, which increases throughput. There are fewer crashes and fewer traffic jams. They optimize signal timing. They shift short local trips to walking and biking, and they right size the road to demand. What
So the
the
road,
pipeline.
so the road diet for State Street is to take it from the 2 lanes going either direction, put in the turn center lane, and then each, okay.
Yep. Just like Broadway, yeah,
Gotcha.
similar.
Okay. So any other question? I think we beat this up pretty good.
Did we second the motion?
We haven't got a motion yet. Looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Perfect.
I'll second.
Have a motion to adopt the SKATS congestion management process resolution 2603.
I'll second it.
Then moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those online? Looks like it's.
Aye.
Perfect. Nice, give thumbs up. Yep. Next up, item agenda E. So 2027-32. AQCD for public comment period. Steve.
Okay, I have a couple slides to share. I'll hold those up. Okay, cool. So the purpose of this agenda item is pretty straightforward. We now have a draft version of the full TIP document and the air quality conformity determination. So the request for today is to release that draft for public review, and we're required to do a 30-day public review period. And our plan right now to send out notice either later this afternoon or tomorrow, and then hold the public review period open through the end of March. And the way that fits in with the overall schedule is we are, Kim and I primarily are going out right now to some neighborhood partnership team meetings to spread word about the comment period. We're planning to do an in-person open house on March 10th. That will be here, either in this room or maybe downstairs in the foyer, which is what we did for the last cycle, just so people don't have to come up our slow elevator. And then there's also going to be a virtual open house, which is up and running, and we'll be sending links out to that when we start spreading notice of the comment period. We have an air quality consultation meeting that's scheduled on April 1st to talk with EPA and DEQ about the project lists and just confirm which projects are air quality exempt or non-exempt. I think there's really just one that we're unsure about right now, and most projects are exempt that are on our project list. So then in April, we probably won't talk about the TIP a lot next month, but in April, we'll have a chance with the TAC and then with this group to review all the feedback we get from various different sources and discuss what kind of edits we want to do to the draft based on the feedback we get. And then the timeline for adoption is we would ask the TAC to make a recommendation at their May 12th meeting, and then have the public hearing with this group at the May 26th meeting, and that would be the final adoption request for the TIP document. So in the packets, there's an outline of what's included in the TIP, as well as all the chapters and appendices. I'm going to go through all of those. Definitely, if you haven't already, take time to read through it. If you spot things you want to comment on, you can either send it to me directly, or we can discuss at the Actually, probably sending it to me rather than waiting until April. Anyway, if there's edits, comments, stuff like that, feel free to reach out at any point and let me know. But just kind of an overview of what's in there. There's 9 chapters to the document. It starts with some introduction, background. Chapter 2 is about what are the federal requirements and what do we have to do to meet US DOT's expectations for a TIP document, and how does this fit in with other documents like our long range plan that Ray works on, as well as all our local jurisdictions transportation system plans. There's a section on financial planning, which lays out what our revenue expectations are for this cycle. Our performance-based planning section talks about what the performance targets are and how the projects that are included in the TIP help us to meet those performance targets. And we have a section on public involvement, which is also covered here, kind of at a higher level, summary level in chapter 5. And then it's also a lot of the documentation is included in the appendices for that chapter as well. And then chapter 6 is where we talk about the process that we've gone through over the last year plus in our project evaluation, selection, and how we came to the list of projects that were selected for regional funding. Chapter 7 is that actually includes the list of projects, which I'll talk about in a moment. That outlines everything that's included in this cycle, all 51 projects, including our SKATS funded projects, as well as projects that are funded by ODOT or with other federal grants or with transit formula funding. And then it winds up with our demonstration of fiscal constraint, which just shows that there's enough funding to pay for all these projects. There's enough federal funding to pay for all these projects. And then an analysis of the projects and how that fits in with the demographics of the region. The appendices, these are mostly just backing materials. There's a lot of detail that's covered in here. I won't go over all these, but it covers things like what's our progress on past projects, what was our schedule, more details on how we prioritized projects during the selection process. And then it also includes our air quality conformity determination. So just have a couple more slides and then I'll be wrapped up. So in chapter 7, the table, you got the printed version. It's the fold out table that's really big. It has the full list of projects that are scheduled they're in draft form right now, but are scheduled for funding during this cycle. There's a total of 51 projects. It's about $157 million in funding. 25 million of that is for 9 projects that the policy committee approved back in August 2025. 7 new projects that were part of that list, and then 2 that were existing projects that just received some additional funding. In addition to that, there's $6 million in funding for the region-wide programs like the traffic signal center, the transportation options program, safe routes to school, and the MPO planning. And then the rest of the list is ODOT administered projects that are included, transit formula funded projects that is funding that is directed from FTA directly to chariots, and then any federal discretionary awards that. Last thing to mention is our supplemental illustrative projects. So these are referenced in the TIP document. They're not funded at this time, but there's 4 projects that are on this list with a total of about $12 million. We're keeping them in our financial planning. So depending on what project costs look like in coming years, as well as what the next federal spending bill for transportation looks like. These are candidate projects that could be moved into the full tip, either during this cycle or in preparation for this cycle. So I think that's all the slides I have, and happy to answer questions or hear comments at this point. The request today is to release the draft so that we can send it out for public review and just get more feedback on the document, and then we'll go from there.
Steve, would you put the slide back up of the timeline?
Yeah, sure.
Please? Thank you.
Sorry. Loading? Okay, there it is.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
I have one on the big table in chapter 7 of all the projects. And I know we have talked about the air quality conformance determination at length before. And in my mind, it kind of sits in the same place as the congestion management process, where it's just like a federal thing. We got to plug the numbers into and submit them so that we're eligible for the season funding. Is that? You don't even have to plug in the numbers.
There's no modeling.
No numbers.
No numbers. And the air quality conformity management basically is showing how, well, how we meet federal requirements.
Okay.
With, there's no numbers involved, and it's showing that we're using the latest planning assumptions and identifying the projects that are exempt, non-exempt. When projects go for implementation, there might have hotspot analysis, so there will be numbers at that point. But there's no regional analysis performed anymore.
Okay, and that's the air quality status column in this many page table.
Without looking at the table, yes.
Non-exempt. and-
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
And then one thing that hard for me to do, and I've been sitting here for a while, is to remember which ones of these I was here for. And the dates, I can look at them over, like I'm looking at ODOT project to Rick Rial to Dokes-Berry, P 13188, non-exempt, and it's got dates that go back as far as 2003, and then they stop at 2019, and I'm like, okay, well,
That is
I wasn't here in 2019, so like, did I never see?
Afternoon.
Is there a way for us, and I don't want to make this table worse than it already is, but to see when we added them to the transportation improvement?
Yes, I think in the expanded version that I don't share publicly, I have a column for that.
I think we could just do it with the project name. Like I couldn't figure out but then they were all like federal fiscal year future. So I don't know if we could add just a year in the project name about when it was added to the TIP.
That sounds simple, but it's a little complicated. I mean, like changing a name of a project. This has to reflect.
Maybe it's a different column.
In the IGA. I think, I don't know if it's covered in the Appendix A. That's where, maybe I can switch to my share screen too, but that's where in the document we have all the progress on projects from the past TIP.
Oh, okay.
So let me pull that up. There we go. So the way this is broken down is projects that were completed by the end of federal fiscal year 2025. That's sort of the top section. Let's see where that, Dokes Ferry, let's see if that. Okay, so that, comes up in a section which is projects carried forward into the 2027 tip. So that is the longest standing project in the tip.
It was
so
literally like a
I think it has a pretty like lengthy backstory about,
Started in the year 2000. In 2010, it turned to a safety corridor. And today we have now like finished the overall project from the Dokes Ferry Road to Brick Railroad. Now we've broken down to 8 individual projects within that. And now I learned today that hopefully April will have the team on board to design the overpass at the interchange of 22 and 51, which will be the first project of that huge corridor. And we can get this off the map. So I think we probably
Not
want to,
before I die.
I'll need your help. But I had color in my hair when this started. But that's where we are today. So it's been a long, it got shelved for several years.
Yeah.
It's off and active now, so. We'll see where it goes.
But part of the reason for its long lifespan, my understanding at least, is the slope, instability on the slope.
The slide area states
Yeah.
couldn't do it. County challenged them. We won. Got it back on. We've been working very hard the last 6 years, getting it to this point. And hopefully within 2 years from now, we will have funding. Yeah. I think that what Anna Hansen said at our meeting this morning. She was gonna find that money for us.
No promise. I planted the seed already.
Okay. Any other comments on this? So is everybody good and moving this forward and release to the public? Everybody in favor, say aye. Aye. Any nays? We're doing good.
Thanks.
You did the motion and the vote all in one swoop.
Yeah, there wasn't even a motion required for this one.
Yeah, this one is not like an official action. It's just approval.
Item F, SKATS MTP for the 2027 update, policies and goals. Mr. Jackson.
Clear my screen again. So this is second presentation on updating the long range plan, and we are in chapters 2 and 3, which were included in your lengthy packet. We've got through that after the two. So I'm basically going to go quickly through the policies, the federal policies that drive what we do, and talk about the goals that we have in mind. At the federal level, Congress comes up with a Surface Transportation Act, get enough votes to pass it, the president signs it into law. It then goes into the US code, either in Title 23 for roads or in Title 49 for transit. The other federal laws that influence what we do, Title 6, ADA, etc. The Federal Highway and Federal Transit Administrations, once a Surface Transportation Act is finished, they will go through and write regulations, rulemaking, and that's where it defines really what we transit DOTs have to do for being eligible for federal funding. There are also presidential executive orders, and the Federal Highway, Federal Transit also have some guidance and policies that also influence what we do. As you know, we get this reviewed we have our UPWP that says what we're going to do each year, and every 4 years we have a certification review of how well we're doing by the federal agencies. The last Transportation Act was Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act 2021, aka bill. There were no actual rulemaking by Federal Highway Administration, so and just a little bit by federal transit. So the rules and regulations that we're going by come out of FAST Act, so 2016, about a decade. Nothing's changed in this time. Back in 2012, so a decade ago, the Congress defined 7 national goals for the DOTs, transit districts, and MPOs to work towards meeting. They're listed on screen, and associated with these are a set of performance measures. Foreshadowing, later this year, we'll be talking about performance measures for at least 2 meetings, because we need to adopt some and review what has happened in the last 4 years. But that's August, so just put that in the back of your brain. In the regulations, Federal Highway has also defined 10 planning factors for MPOs to work towards as we develop our plan and our TIP. Those are listed online or on screen. And then in general, MPOs in cooperation with DOTs and public transit need to develop our long-range plan and TIPs through performance-driven, outcome-based approach in consideration with all the planning factors and the rules and regulations that exist. Plus other acts. We've had a number of executive orders be rescinded since last January. That is reflected in the draft that you see. You'll see the environmental justice section has been redlined, and others change as well. In Appendix J of the long-range plan, we have a crosswalk between the long-range goals of the plan and the national goals and the goals that the state has. It's not provided, but it's available online. There's usually a 1-to-1 relation between the national goals and our goals. And this, excuse me. So at the state level, the laws and plan policies that the state and ODOT have mainly affect the local jurisdictions and how they develop their TSPs, which then influence what projects and programs they are requesting to be put into the long-range plan. The ODOT updated their Oregon Transportation Plan in 2023, right after we adopted our long-range plan. They have 6 goals, which are aligned somewhat with the goals that we have in ours, as well as the national goals. These influence what the local. Moving to chapter 3, it's more of a discussion of the goals in the long-range plan. So we have 10 goals, and each section lists a little blurb of describing what the goal is about, and then how it relates to the federal goal or goal in the OTP, and how we're measuring it via the federal performance measures or some regional indicators. We've had regional indicators since 2011. We've been sort of transitioning to just the federal performance measures since the data is always available and is required, but we keep the regional indicators around for things that the feds aren't interested in.
So in this here, we have our goals listed in priority from past meetings.
They're not in priority. They're just not even alphabet. It's just a legacy of
We prioritize them in one meeting.
When we were looking at projects, we gave some weights to some of the criteria that are associated with the goals, but not. Yeah, maybe that's what you're thinking.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, so
it's the same thing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and now it's going to be.
So this list is not listing priority at all. This is listing just the goals.
This is just the goals. Non-priority and not rect.
Perfect.
Next time when we talk about criteria, we'll have safety. Last time we got 4 times the weight. Preservation was a 1. The criteria are associated with the goals, and they have the weights when we're evaluating the projects.
Thank you.
Yep. So of the goals, most of the goals also have an objective associated with them, or objectives are associated with one or multiple goals. You'll recall from my CMP discussion 20 minutes ago, we have some of those objectives here. We also have a total 6, so there are 2 more that weren't included being used in the CMP, but these are the objectives that then start to be used when we're developing the criteria to evaluate projects. So this is more putting the goals into implementation type of. And that's my very, very brief overview of chapter 2 and 3. Policies mainly at the federal level that drive what we do, and the goals and objectives that have been defined in the long range plan to date. The question is, you can't change the policies at the federal level, sorry. But at the goals and objectives, are there any changes that are suggested or modifications? Wasn't proposing any goal changes as the federal regs not change that would drive any change for additional goals or for meeting. And that's.
Any questions for Ray? Comments? Thoughts? They're a quiet bunch today. Way too easy.
I like it.
All right, well, the next one's almost a reason to go party. Construction cost decreases. I want you to see decreases. Steve, I hope you're smiling as you give us this report.
Yes, okay. Yeah, decreases, not increases. Okay, so there's 3 projects that have decreases that came back during the construction bidding process. And we're going to talk about the tax recommendation on what to do with some of the savings. And then there's 2 resolutions. Making the change for 2 of the projects requires an amendment to the TIP. The 3rd one doesn't actually require an amendment because it's a smaller scale project in terms of cost. So that one doesn't require an amendment. And that's why there's only 2 resolutions instead of 3. But just in terms of what took place, the first project is a City of Salem project, Orchard Heights, Snowbird, West Haven and West Salem. And the cost estimate is about $770,000 less than what is currently programmed for that project. That project was originally added to the TIP to the 2021 through 26 TIP. So the cycle previous to where we are currently. And well, actually, I'll come back to some of the details about the overmatch in a moment. The Verta Lane project, which is a familiar one, had, I think, something like 7 or 9 bids came in that were not all of them, but several of them were very aggressive and lower than expected. And so that cost estimate, partially due to that bidding competition, also from talking to Kumar, the project manager at ODOT of this project, partially was related to the redesign work of the what's the word I'm trying to, I want to say wastewater. That's not the right word. Stormwater. Thank you. Stormwater improvements. But generally he attributed to the bidding, fewer projects being out to bid right now and getting a lot of bids. I don't think the number that they got has been typical the last few years. It's been usually fewer bidders. The last one is another City of Salem project. This is a safety improvement crossing project that has several different locations. And the cost estimate for this was about $418,000 less than what's currently in the STIP. The question kind of essentially to talk about is how do we split the savings between federal and local sources on the savings? And so we had this reduction. That's great. All three of these projects had local overmatch included on them. So I just included this graphic down here and maybe I'll zoom in a little bit too. This is the Orchard Heights project, just to kind of illustrate what that means. So for the construction phase, there's a total of 1.9 million that's currently programmed for the project. That was originally what the estimate was. And so the first line is the federal amount of funding that is been put towards that project phase. The line beneath it is the required minimum match, which is 10.27%. And underneath that, the local line, that is local overmatch. So that's additional funding beyond the minimum that's required. And that, depending on the project, local overmatch is included for different reasons. In this case, it was because part of the property where the work's taking place is a city-owned property for a reservoir, and the city decided to use utility funding to pay for a portion of the overall project. So that's why that extra 500,000 was added to this project. So anyway, all three projects, like I mentioned, include overmatch. And so the question is essentially like, the question we took to the TAC and got a recommendation on was, what do we do? How do we split that savings between federal funding that would come back to the bottom line of the tip for future projects that SKATS would fund, and reducing the burden for the local jurisdictions so that they're not paying such a large overmatch in these cases. So in terms of what we discussed with the TAC, so at the meeting earlier this month, we reviewed the cost decreases for the Orchard Heights and the Verta Lane projects. And we reviewed some different options on how to split that funding. Those are outlined in Appendix A. The ped safety crossing one that came in a little bit later, so we didn't actually discuss that with the TAC. But at the same time, we did get a recommendation on how to approach these sorts of situations, and that was essentially to reduce local overmatch as much as possible before giving savings back to the MPO for future federally funded projects. So I will just switch over just for a moment and we go to questions. In the packet, there's first appendix, which just outlines some of the options that we discussed with the TAC on the Orchard Heights and the Verta projects. They ultimately recommended option 3 in both cases. And then Appendix B just has a little bit more history on all the project for reference purposes. Why was there overmatch in the first place? When were these projects added to the TIP? And what kind of amendments have taken place since they were added to the TIP? So I talked a little bit about the Orchard Heights one project during the presentation. For Verta Lane, there was quite a bit of overmatch that was added over time to this project. And that was mainly last year when we added funding last February to meet the construction needs at that time for that cost estimate. And so City of Keizer agreed at that time to put in an increased match. We didn't necessarily have the federal funding to be able to do that. And then the ped safety project, this project was originally selected for funding in the previous 21-26 TIP cycle, and overmatch was added 2024 to help cover some cost increases. So bottom line kind of all this is the direction we got from the TAC and the way the resolutions are written, if approved, would be to maximize reduction in local overmatch when we get savings in a case like this.
Yeah, it's not the direction, it's the recommendation to the policy committee. Let's be clear.
Yes, sir.
So on the pit crossing, there was back in 22, a removal of 2 crossings to reduce the cost. Was there any consideration to add that?
We
got too late because it's already
Yeah.
been out to
It
bid.
might be too late. I'm
Yeah.
looking at
It
Julie.
will be another
The
project.
short answer is no, project
Yeah,
at this
okay.
point, yeah. I mean, they probably still have some initial concept
I
of
think
the
where's
crossings,
where's these crossings at? Where-
The 2 that were removed, one was on Lancaster between Sunnyview and Wolverine, and the other was State Street by 19. And you know, we would have loved to have been able to do what we refer to often as an ad alternate, you know, where you design extra in case the bids come in low, but for federal projects, that's really hard because of all the ODOT and the feds require that you have the money in the bank when you go to bid. So we'd have to find some other money out there to put in, and we didn't have that money to do that.
Okay, that answers my question. Be nice if we could.
It would be very nice, yes.
On Lancaster.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? So the money that comes back to the jurisdictions that did the cost share, that money has no federal strings attached if we give it back to them, correct? So they can utilize that for projects sometimes that are hard to find funding.
Yep,
And that's what they're recommending.
that's correct. And just because I didn't say this during the presentation, it's in the packet, but for the Orchard Heights project, it would be when we did the breakdown of savings that the tax recommending, it would be about 243,000 that came back to SKATS, 527,000 for City of Salem. That would, I don't know if it would still be utility funding or not. And then with the Verta Lane project, I reduced the local overmatch as much as possible on this project. There's still some overmatch because of phases that have already completed, like the tree trimming work and the right-of-way stage. But the reduction here is that about 632,000 would come back to the tip for future projects. And then Keizer's share would be decreasing by about $1.2 million. And you see that the overall cost is going down from 9.4 to about 7.5 million.
We can take all 3 of these in one motion.
I think Julie had her hand up.
Yeah, one thing I just wanted to add is that I talked to our budget person who manages all the different kind of construction budgets, and she said that it's not like we actually release those funds right now, because even though the estimate at this point, there is still the potential that it could end up costing more. So that's another reason that we recommend not reducing the federal amount now.
I agree with that totally.
It gives the locals flexibility.
Yes,
Yeah.
and protection.
Yeah.
And getting money back without strings attached is crucial. It opens up the doors to do so many things that you fight for funding.
Someone asked if we do all 3 at once. Maybe that's the first question. Do we want to do all 3 at once?
So like all 3 is the slate. Anybody have John to
It
that?
says there's a resolution 2604 and 2605, right?
Yep.
We have 2
Is that the
resolutions.
motion that takes care of all of these?
Yep.
You're ready, Mr. Chair.
I'm ready for both.
Mr. Chair, I'll move that we adopt resolution 2604 and 2605, amending the SKATS FY 24-29.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have 2 seconds. I'll let you guys wrestle it out. Be entertaining. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any nays?
No, just for the record, there was no Marion County money coming back.
Nothing for Paul. Darn it. What a. But thank you, and that's exciting. And let's hope this keeps going like this.
Keizer got some money.
Next up is option item H, funding tables, local matching funds, draft. 27 UPWP, Mr. Chappie.
Okay, here we go. Screen sharing is slow today, so. Back to my presentation then. There. Then you get to the actual presentation, so I can move. All right, so last month you got the draft Unified Planning Work Program with all the text on all the activities we're doing. The one thing that was missing was the funding tables that's associated with funding the program, and that's what I'm providing this month. Go to my first slide. Okay. So funding it's kind of complicated, and I'm going to try to simplify it as much as I can. When we get the funds from ODOT, our funds for the year, it's a mixture of different funds. And we like to talk about color of money. Literally, we like to color the rows to kind of combine different kinds of funds. So what you'll see in this table and also the table in the packet is there are at least 4 different sources we get our funds. We get in the light blue, there are federal planning funds that are from the federal government, and that's divided for all the NPOs. And within that light blue color of funds, maybe I can zoom in a little bit. Okay, you will see some new funds and some funds from prior years. You'll also see that each one shows the federal share and what the state match is, what the local match is for all these funds. I'm going to draw your attention to this first one, the 2027 planning funds. Planning funds for many, many years, the state provided the full match, 100% match to these planning funds. Because of the fiscal problems the state is having, they can no longer fund those funds at 100%. They're doing it at 50%. They did it at 50% last year, and they're doing it at 50% this year. And I'll get back to that later, but that's important to note. The other kinds of funds, or the smaller one is funding is PL 2.5, which is a set aside of the PL funds used for safe and accessible transportation options. We basically use it for a little bit of our Safe Routes to School program. Then there are the planning funds from the Surface Transportation Block Group funds that come from the TIP. You heard Steve mention it earlier. There's some regional programs. This is one of those regional programs, MPO planning. So this also has new money, and it has older money. The new money, I really reduced that quite a bit, and I'll mention it. I'll say that later why that is. But in the TIP, you'll see that as the sum of approximately 130,000 and 720,000. So that would be $850,000. I'm putting 720,000 in reserve, and I'll explain later why. Then we get this last kind of money is section 5303 from the transit section of the federal allocations. Again, we have new money and some older money. And we take these funds and split it between us and the transit district so they can do transit planning regionally for adjusting their routes, but also for planning new facilities, for planning major upgrades, things like that. Their comprehensive operations analysis. So we share that FTA money with them. So this is the color of money. Sorry.
I said 2 more.
I should say the other way around. So because no other NPO shares this money with their Associated Transit.
Oh,
We're the
thank
only
you.
ones.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And once again, I'm going to note that this 2027 PO funds has a state share, but 39,000 is the local share that SKATS has to come up with. So when you collapse all these different colors of money, here's the tables we're having. All total, it adds 1.835 million for planning. Here's the different kinds: PL set aside, SDBG, and 5303. The amounts in red text are the ones that we need to come up with match. We being the SKATS members. So that 39,000 that the state is no longer providing as match, and the 59,000 to the STBG funds, we have to collectively come up with match. So you add those two amounts, that's the $98,000 in local match we need to come up with this year. And if you wanted to refine it even further, if you split the 39,000 into 7, our major partners, if you divided the STBG into 7, and assume Turner's going to provide $2,500 of that, that's how you break up the match amounts. The total per jurisdiction is $13,724 for this year. So the next one is the one you probably want to know most about. What has been the match over the years? For many years, we didn't have to provide local match to the PO funds. That's why you see all these zeros. But this year and last year, we had to provide about $39,000 a match, which was $5,600 per jurisdiction. For the STBG funds, which is something we've done for the last 13 years or even more before that, we were asking for amounts in this column, 600,000, 400,000. It varied per year just because the amount of PL funds we got varied per year, the amount of 5303 funds. So it's not a solid number. It goes up and down a bit. There's 1 year where we returned here in 2025, we returned $350,000 of planning funds, so we go toward projects that were running a fiscal shortness or shortfall in developing the projects. So that money went from planning to construction projects. Anyway, I'm trying to show you and demonstrate that we have these two funding pots we have to match: the STBG funds and the PL funds. So if you look at that last line, which is the current year, 2027, our UPWP has 516,000 of STBG funds. So we need to provide the match, which is 59,000. And we divide that by 7 is $8,000 per jurisdiction. For the PL funds, we have to come up with 40,000 of match. Roll it a little bit. 40,000 of match, and the match to that is 5,600. So add the 8,000 to the 5,600. That's why the current match request is 13,000 per jurisdiction. I try to make this lower every year, or keep it at a reasonable level, and that's why I set aside that $720,000 of funds in the TIP that's supposed to go to MPO planning. I'm not asking for match money for that 720 at this time. I don't think we need it for the current program. We may want to use it later on if we get into the next phase of travel model development. So I'm not asking for match that 720. That's just set aside. We'll decide later whether we want to look at MPO planning or return it to the TIP or some other use. So I know, Chair, you had concerns about the match. You expressed that in the past. And so I'm providing this history of how much match we've asked in the past, which is more in the line of as much as like 11,000, 12,000. And now we jumped up to like 13 and 15,000 because of this, mostly because of this ODOT requirement that they won't pay any more than 50% of the match to the PO funds. And I explained why. It's not because they don't want to, it's just they're in this fiscal situation. So that's a lot of numbers to throw at you. So I will stop here and see if you have any questions.
I'm just looking at the table and local match divided by 7.
So we have 8 partners or members on the MPO. The Kerners are small one, currently.
Right.
So, historically, we only asked them for a small contribution. For many years, it was just $500 a year. And last year, we increased that to $2,500. And this year, I'm again saying we are requesting $2,500. So,
Okay,
so the
so,
other seven members that would pay the match for he's planning.
but there's, I mean, Turner is the small one, but there are. It's a, yeah, right, Salem is the big one, then maybe Marion County, but then I also know that cities have kind of different funds available to them, like access to different funds. Like I think counties have access to different sources of funding that aren't available to cities. Am I right?
The roads.
No. I mean, what we've done for as long as I've been here is ask that every member provides an equal share.
Uh-huh.
And that was true, but then when Turner joined, they were, a decision was made that they only contributed a smaller share because their population of like 1,800, I think, it's been in that nature, so.
And these are only for planning?
This is for planning, the activities in the planning work program. So all the things you heard today, Ray working on the long range plan, congestion management plan, Steve doing the tip, us having meetings, TAC meetings, committee meetings, and all the other stuff you don't always see. Interagency work with the local governments on their projects. All that work is in our planning work. Working with the transit district on their projects.
So now is a good time for me to share Polk County stance. Due to the fallout of the challenges of the votes and everything. When the numbers were given, populations, the amount of money that's been given over the last 20 years. And 2 commissioners are questioning why we're here as Polk County. So we went into this good faith back in there thinking that the money would be divided, but at the same time, we understand Salem is our driving engine for economy, and we want to be a part of it. But we are running into financial challenges that we're facing now. We're talking about closing our fairgrounds and stuff. We are scrutinizing everything we give money to. Where we represent 3,900 people or something like that. We're the smallest entity of the group. So to provide more funding for cost shares of items that we will never get, the other 2 commissioners are not on board. I understand the value of SKATS and of SKATS, this group and COGS staff, what they do and stuff, and I totally understand, but to ask our constituents, 90,000 people, to provide this money for something that our chances of return are very minimal. The one $500,000 donation we got went to an ODOT project. Commissioner Pope lobbied for that to jump on ODOT, and that's for lighting on Doakes Ferry Road. Didn't happen because of certain issues, but now that's in the planning division for that entire corridor. So it's being spent to good use, and we'll get put into construction when we get there. So Polk County is not planning on paying him more. We would like to stay at the $8,000 level we've always been, because we're one of the originals. One of the commissioners wants us out. We're at the $2,500 Turner level. That would put more cost on the rest of the other 6. So this hasn't been decided yet, but I want to tell you it is a very often topic, looking at cutting costs and moving forward. So I want you to all be aware of that as we're talking about this. I already shared that with Mike. I think our TAC committee was aware of it also, I believe. I think Austin mentioned it a little bit. But, that's what we have going forward. So just,
Commissioner Moore, I'm sorry.
yes,
You're saying that Polk County is considering pulling out of SKATS altogether?
that was one of the questions thrown at me. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. What is the value of our 9,000? And I'm here Because I know that we have so many people commute to Salem, they make a living in Salem. That's why we're here. That's why we're originally here. That's why I want to stay here. But to take $13,000 our constituents funding and donate it for everybody else to get projects is really hard. So we're literally talking about closing our fairgrounds down. We're laying off employees. We don't have that money. And I suggested we maintain where we're at and stay at the 8,000 level we've been at for the last years and stay there. And you guys can take the extra costs that we'll be getting projects given to you. Then when we bring Almsville on, that'll be another $2,500 membership. That'll make up for some of that. But that's what we're coming to. I'm one person of a board of 3. So I can lobby what I can do, but at the same time, if you look at the reports that were created over the last 20 years, it's hard to sell this to people. But like I said, this is the place we all make our money. Yes.
Our jurisdictions using road funds for this amount. Gas tax money.
Salem is.
Isn't that where it usually comes from?
I don't ask them where it's also their match. They just front match. It's up to them.
It's definitely eligible to be used for transportation planning, right?
Yes. My understanding is yes.
So, this isn't general fund dollars if you use your road fund dollars.
No.
It could be, which you can't use. If you've been using general fund dollars, you might want to look at that and say, hey, let's use our road fund dollars for this.
It's gonna be coming out of
issue.
planning.
Huh?
Coming out of planning is where this dollar will be coming out.
So
I guess
how much do you have in road fund on an annual basis?
about 6 points.
Yeah, so $5,600 on a 6.2 budget. That's what I would say to your other 2 commissioners. And you are getting some stuff. You are getting 51, you're getting some stuff done in Polk County.
Yeah.
No.
But money out of here? No.
Hmm?
Money out of SKATS, other than the 500,000.
Well,
But it did come through in our planning. So
Yeah.
I get it. But like I said, I'm one of 3. You know, Austin and I sat here, we had a long conversation with the other 2. And we're still working on it. Just saw that there.
Then wouldn't rural Polk County, well, all of Polk County, lose access to that benefit of having representative plan for them, or am I misinterpreting?
yeah, we don't represent all of the county.
Okay.
It's just
It's
the,
in the
inside
area.
urban growth boundary.
yep, what's inside the urban growth, inside the MPO boundary.
MPO, so from Oak Grove-ish, what east?
Okay, so a
Yeah.
bigger area of, we all at this table represent a bigger area than the actual,
Yeah.
UGBs.
that area that we're, yeah, okay.
And there's a map in your tip in the beginning that shows where
Right.
the planning area is.
I'm making connections, thank you.
But I just want to make sure I understand Polk's tentative position is that Polk is willing to stay at this $8,000
The
mark.
original annual thing we paid over
Okay.
the last years, yes.
Well, it has varied over the years. as you
Yes,
see
but
this.
it's been averaged somewhere right in there.
So I'm looking at this chart, table 13A, and I'm looking at the breakdown of the 2 funding. And the PL fund is at 56 and the STBG is at 8. And Polk County is indicating that they would be okay with the 8. Okay. But not anything more than.
We're trying to find a happy medium.
It's actually a reduction from last year, if I'm looking at this right.
Yeah, we paid full
It
amount.
is, yeah.
It's a $2,000 reduction.
I got them to pay the full amount this last year.
Yeah, last year, originally we had a higher number, I think it was like 18,000. When I sent out the initial local match, and then I worked the numbers to see where I can make some changes and brought that down to the 15,000. So I saved about $3,000 per member, and now once again, I was looking for ways to shrink it to what we really have to have. Put a lot in reserve, and for how I came up with the 13,000.
I'll tell you, no decisions made. These are all just thoughts they're thrown out. Discussing. Just want you to be aware.
Mr. When do we have to have a decision?
Well, we're going to adopt this document, likely next month, the final planning work program. And then, we have to have the match money in July, so I usually send out the invoices early July. One way or another, we have to show we have the full match. So, we'll find a way to show that. I'm gonna be asking ODOT if we can do some in-kind matching, or we can use the contributions of staff time and some of the representatives who are not paid elected officials or representatives to use their time. That may add up to a couple thousand, like $2,000 match in total. So
Polk County decided not to stay on with SKATS, would that mean that the match would go up because we would have to absorb that?
well, I mean, stay on could be interpreted different ways.
Well-
They're a member,
Right.
you know, change them as a member, changes the whole cooperative agreement.
That's what I thought, yeah.
So this, Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes, please.
This goes back to how SKATS has operated over the years. As it, I hesitate to use the word equity organization, but basically we've had one vote for one each jurisdiction, regardless of population, regardless of budgets. And we try to get things done cooperatively, whether it's project in Salem that they need some more money, we want to finish projects. And so this is another example of if we start to, and this is, if I was having to be in front of the Polk County Commissioners, if we start to splinter off for $5,000 or whatever, and say, you know, we don't get as much as somebody else, then it breaks down our argument to say one vote for one jurisdiction.
Totally agree.
And so I just think this is, I know I have a board that I have to deal with too. And I don't remember dealing with this, was it last year or 2 years? How long ago do we have? Is it every year?
Well, every year we have an amount,
Yeah.
but last year was a change just because the states made a change.
It went up because of the state's issue. So this is the first time I'm just sitting here thinking that there's been any kind of discussion about changing our amounts, correct?
Correct.
That's right.
So,
I appreciate it. I know you guys have been on this one for a while and I'm new coming on, so thank you for taking the time to.
so
share the
last
history.
you.
It's new every 4 years now.
Yeah, we did have this kind of discussion about should we change dividing the match? And we're doing it equally, dividing it by 7 equally. It's been the long-term process we've had.
Yeah, if you start going, okay, you divide it by road funds or whatever, but then, you know, you've got school district, you've got
That's right.
chariots, now they don't have exactly the same kind of funding as yours.
Or population would be difficult
Right.
because
Right.
always, you know, overlapping populations as well. So,
That's not how I get it.
yeah,
No.
Talk to my counterpart.
yeah. Now, we talk about the roads, you know, we have responsibility for the roads, but we all share the roads, you know. Marion County, driving Polk County Road, et cetera. So, and even ODOT roads, you know, we do a lot of work with ODOT. Whose roads are they? They're ODOT's roads, but they benefit everybody, right? So we spent a lot of time working with them last year on the Center Street Bridge size upgrade, where we did a lot of work and we amended our plan. And so who benefits from all that planning work? Well, everyone in the region benefits.
I agree.
There isn't one area that benefits, you know, solely.
So some of the fun when we bring up issues and we have some fallout. So that's some of the fallout
Yeah,
from those numbers.
so
So,
Chair, I'm sorry.
yeah, go ahead.
Just to say, in the interest of time, I still have to submit, we're gonna bring back the adopted, the draft UPWP next month for your adoption. We'll have the full amounts of match, have to find that match, we'll find it one way or another. Either the couch cushions or ask for that, in-kind. But, having this change, but not being equal, I don't know if we want to talk about it again next month or.
It's not even
Do we need some action to be taken before I leave?
take action on this.
Just if there's any other direction you'd like me to do besides submitting these numbers as part of their UPWP.
Mike, when you send out the invoices, you put a note in there that this is eligible for road fund?
I don't, because like I said earlier, people have different sources of funds, like the school district doesn't have road fund. Transit district doesn't have road funds, so I let them decide if they want road funds or they want the general fund or.
You need planning this for this?
It's just not about the money. It's about investing in possible return. And so they don't see and understand and. Yeah, that's what it is. Okay. So. Item I, summary of SKATS funds. Thanks, Mike.
You guys.
Summary of SKATS fund program tip 2003 to 2027.
Sure, Steve and I will work on this, but you asked me to start it off. So, this follows up precisely the thing you mentioned earlier. What have been the distribution of funds to projects over years, if you want to look at it like that fine grain. So this is a memo that was done in 2024, initially in January. Steve updated it to include a few more projects that have been added to our tip since then. The memo describes that background of the different funds, how the SKATS discretion. This is just the SKATS discretionary funds out of our tip, and the tables on page 2 have breakdowns of how the funds are allocated to projects by jurisdictions. So you can see the census populations for different jurisdictions, the road miles, and then finally the funds obligated by those percentages. And you can, look at the how they kind of align to different numbers. So there's table 2 that includes all our members, and then there's table 3 that just breaks it between all cities and counties in the transit district. But probably table 3 is probably the one you'd want to see. So of the jurisdictions that actually have projects and road miles, how the amount of funds that are allocated, which in this case was a total of almost $84 million, was allocated by jurisdiction, and how that compares to population and road miles. So just pick Keizer as an example. They're 14% of the population. They have about 8% of the road miles on the regional road system. And then I should say this is regional road system, not all streets like local streets. And they received 16.4% of that $84 million. Salem, likewise, they're 65% of the population, 70% of the regional road system received 44.4% of the regional dollars. So on and so forth. Turner, they're about 1%, have received about 1% of the dollars. Marion County, 19% of the population, 19% of the regional road miles received 37.5% of the funds, discretionary funds. And Polk County, 1.4% of the population, 1% of the regional road system received the $500,000 that the chair mentioned earlier, which is 0.6% of the 84 million. So if you want to look at it in these measures, you can see how those things align. And by the way, I should just mention federal regulations require that we do not allocate funds on a population basis. It's actually in the the regulations, so you can't say, oh, okay, we have $100 million, what's your percentage of the population, you get this amount. It has to be done through a process that we go through, setting goals, setting objectives, looking at projects, deciding as a group what are the highest needs, and then allocating to those needs. So, but this is showing you how kids have been allocated over the last 24 years, I think it is, 2003 to 2027. And then there's the tables if you want to look at specific projects. So I'll stop there. We do that. Yeah.
Other than to say it doesn't include what's in the draft tip that we're working on now. So it's just through the current tip through 2027.
Yeah. So that's that report. We thought you mentioned it, Chair, and it was a memo from a couple years ago. We wanted to bring it back to this group and update it a little.
And just for the record, Marion County is outside city limits, but all that money is still in the UGB. So it's still the city of Salem. So they're about 85% of the population. They received 84% of the funds.
Some projects are outside the UGB, like the Battle Creek Bridge.
Yeah, Battle Creek outside.
Outside the UGB, but it's in Scotts.
Yeah.
Yes.
Turner.
Yeah, Turner's.
Turner in here, yeah.
Turner.
There was some work done out.
Yep.
Yeah, they have their own UGB.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Well, the current spill project, isn't that?
It's not on this list
Not-
because it's in the
okay.
next tip that we're gonna adopt.
So what's the total planning money, Mike, that we were looking at in the last?
Oh,
There was
Yeah.
2 funds, and what was the total?
okay, so
I can go back and look.
total planning funds is 1.8 million. And the match that we're asking the members to provide is 98 million.
98.
90, I'm sorry, 98,000. I'm sorry. 98,000 is what we need as match out of a total of 1.8 million for the program.
I just have a question, maybe it would help fill in gaps in my understanding. Is there anybody from transit online? No. When we are awarded funds through our MPO, often we are able to bring in federal funding to kind of support the rest of the project.
You mean for the tip or for planning or transit projects?
For transit project, I'm just looking at this percent breakdown, I'm looking like at the amount we got, but that's not like the fully loaded cost, but I'm wondering, is there anything, like we talked a little bit about local match
Yeah.
and overmatch, whatever that is, it didn't slow us down to clarify. But is that something that exists outside the world of transit? Do other
Well, just be clear,
entities become available,
Yeah.
become eligible for additional outside funding?
Sure.
Okay,
Just be clear, the data in this memo is just the discretionary funds.
just what we push out.
The STPG funds,
Yeah.
the CMAC funds.
Mhm.
It doesn't include the local match. It
Mhm.
doesn't include other funding sources that were added onto. So
Mhm, mhm.
City of Salem had a grant. I'll give you an example. In Keizer, I remember we worked with Keizer for improving Chamawa Road between River Road and Keizer Rapids Park. You know, we had sidewalks and bikeways. The MPO put in about $1 million. The city put in $1 million, and we leveraged that with an application to the state back when they had transportation enhancement applications
Mhm.
and got about $1 million for that. So yeah, we have looked for those opportunities to leverage our money with the local money and other money. Hazel is the same, Hazel Road. I forget how much we got, but I think we got multi-million dollars of the state's funds because we showed them we were willing to commit to this project and that, you know, we're not asking for the state for a bunch of money, maybe about a third of it. So
Yeah,
I'm very proud of the projects we've been able to do that and leverage our money to get more money. Same with transit. We provide money for transit and then they can
Mhm.
show, hey, the MPO is providing money for the Salem Transit Center. You know, I think they're applying for money now. I just,
Right.
you know, saw some letters of support for that. So
yeah.
so us putting in money into projects allows the locals to not just use their own local money, but also to try to get other kind of grants.
I don't know if it's possible to know where we've been able to stretch out our dollars that way. But that would also be interesting
Take a
information.
ton of.
Okay,
doing
then,
that.
then you already do that, so, I don't need that additional research. It was just kind of a point of curiosity.
Yeah.
And then, Chair, I do, maybe when we're done with questions on this, a question about, kind of a relationship between items E and F. It took me a while to like formulate it in my brain, but about our tip and then our policies and goals, just came to mind, so when we're done with this. Circle back to that.
I have a question on this.
Sure.
Like on table 3, the percentages, has that been pretty consistent over the years? How everything's been distributed through the cities? Does it go up or down based on project size? That's what I would assume.
Yes, it does.
But does it stay?
Yeah. So like, if you look at Keizer's, their percentage might go up and down because they may only had like one project and then no projects, and then very expensive projects, so like go up and down. Like Verda is a very expensive project.
Right now, we're looking at a huge project in Kaiser,
Yeah.
but I don't think we had one anywhere near that size in a long time, so.
Right, you had the roundabout, you had the smaller road that I mentioned, those are the two that jump to mind. You had money for like some planning studies, North Kaiser transportation studies, and then you had the money we gave you to plan for Wheatland, which I forget how much it was, like 120, 150,000, whatever it was. So yeah, for Kaiser, because you only do like one project every couple of years, the percentage will change quite a bit.
Because there was a number, I mean, if you look at our population and a percentage, it's pretty close.
Yes.
So that, I mean,
Yeah.
that looks good.
I think it was-
It's consistent.
That just happened.
Yeah, I know.
That's a kind of
But then you look at
coincidence.
Salem and they're below their percentage of.
Yeah.
population. So I just wondered, my assumption
Yeah.
would be that it goes up and down based on.
A lot of it is, ability for local jurisdictions to get match. Since you road funds, you have a limited amount of state highway funds. And so I know Bill Boyer was saving up multiple years for Berta Lane. And so that, you get that big project. And so limitation for everyone.
Move on to any other questions on this? Move on to item J here real quick.
I would just point out one thing,
Sure.
so in table 1 again, we have the full $130 million over the 22 years. And I skipped over it, but you can see the money going to the transit district, which has varied from bus replacements was probably a big one, money for the South Sydney Transit Center, various technology upgrades, bus shelters, so a whole variety of projects. And then the region-wide projects have been everything from MPO planning, us, more recently, a little bit of safe routes to school the last couple of years, transportation options, and the Regional Traffic Control Center. And everyone benefits from the Regional Traffic Control Center, even though it's operated by Salem. So when I say regional, these things are regional. Transit is regional, planning is regional, safe routes to school is regional. So just want to point out that regional projects, they're a big number, but I wanted you to know what they went into, what they funded.
Okay. Information items real quick. The MWAC agenda was enclosed. We are prioritizing our local region. Yamhill, both and Marion County each selected one project to be the key project. Marion County being the Brook Lake interchange on I-5, Polk County being 2051, and Yamhill County finishing the Dundee bypass. And then we had a presentation. The most dangerous intersection we have our region today is probably 18 in Lafayette Highway interchange. They got funding for design for a roundabout there. That's been by far the highest spits report we've had. Utilize the intersection, kind of like a crapshoot, just trying to get across that highway.
Where is it?
So 18 Lafayette Highway interchange. It's just west of Dayton. So it is, traffic counts so large there. It's been done years ago, but they've had lots of fatalities just recently.
Is that in Polk or is that right on the Yam Hill?
Yeah.
That's Yam Hill.
At Jam Hill. And then they're also discussing what is the purpose of an act and what are our powers, kind of like purpose of SKATS. Why are we here? And then they passed we got the presentation of the new heat map. The heat map is where they take the spits report of local highways. They have all of the highways across the state. The hot areas are highlighted red. Highway 2251 was not on because they keep their stats 4 years and it's 2 years removed. 18 we had 6 fatalities. 18 fell off. Went from 18 to 22 to 19 to 23. And 23 was an unusual year. We had 0 fatalities. So for the first time in 27 years, it was not on the SKATS report. Now, locally, we will keep that focus on it. But on the statewide map, it wasn't there. It was pretty amazing. And there's other intersections I'm hearing around the state, kind of that same book. So those are under discussions. Capital investment plan was covered there. Anna, do you have anything else to add on that? It's kind of a high overview.
I just wanted, we'll go ahead.
Oh, I don't really have anything to add. I think you did a good job. Thank you.
I was just gonna say that you're gonna hear a lot about the capital investment plan statewide. It's the way the ODOT is shifting from just having a 4-year step to looking at least 6 years further beyond that to pre-prepare projects. So you'll hear it from them. You might hear it from us later on because we have to integrate our work with them.
Yeah. It's pretty interesting. I think it's gonna be a good plan once it gets.
That's assuming the legislature doesn't tell them what to do.
Yes.
Mike.
And UMPOC, I wasn't able to get on there, but Mike, you went to that.
Yeah, I went to the OMPOC meeting. If I can close the agenda here, so.
One item that I really wanted to list was the congestion, how it compares to other regions. And I know we talked about congestion here locally.
Yeah, so the ODOT staff have been working on something that I wasn't aware of, which is their own kind of congestion analysis report statewide. It's using the same data set as RITIS, right? But it looks at it statewide. I didn't know they were looking at the statewide. So it should be interesting to see how like we can look at our levels of congestion but we don't have a real good idea of those. We could do it, but we're not comparing our area to Portland or Eugene. Having the statewide one, you can probably compare. How does the Salem area compare to Portland? So it was a good presentation. You have something to add to that? Well, I mean, not seeing it, but just looking at this, it's how you also define what SKATS is, because they're saying, I mean, it said Marion County, which is not SKATS. So, you know, and this is still draft, so we'll come back around and we'll talk with them about how we can integrate this into our reports as well. Because it's always good to say, okay, how do we compare to Eugene? Not necessarily Portland because it's much bigger. Eugene's a better comparison, yeah. And then there's a very interesting presentation from Heidi Gala down in the Eugene area, Elcog area. Has to do with driver education in rural areas. So in a big county like Lane County, there's not many driver education places to learn how to drive, or they're mostly in the city of Eugene. So you might have people coming and driving for an hour to take driver's ed and have to drive an hour back, right? And it's also there's only one school in the state, it's Western Oregon University, that teaches driver's ed, how to be driver's ed, or people how to be driver's ed teachers. And Their attrition is not so good, people start the program and it lasts, I don't know how long, and a third of them drop out. Pay's not very good, so it's hard to keep up with driver's ed teacher instructions for teenagers. Why is that important? We're all concerned about safety. For our teenagers getting proper instruction in driver's ed, a lot of them don't get any instructions in driver's ed, except they're putting in the 50 hours or 100 hours to get their learner's permit and get their license, right? So it's just reflective of, can we do a better job having more driver instruction education, especially for our teenagers. And she has various data showing how we compare as a state as far as accidents, crashes and fatalities for teenagers in Oregon versus other states. And it's higher in Oregon and might be attributable to the lack of funding for driver's ed, lack of people that can teach driver's ed. So that was kind of illuminating.
When I was in school, it was a
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just.
lighting, yeah.
Are other states still offering it as a part of high school education?
There is actually a white paper that she put together and send that to you.
It's interesting.
Maybe it talks about it.
That'd be great to see.
There's a couple of like local-ish schools here in Salem, but the capacity is small.
Yeah, and it doesn't pay a lot to be a driver's ed teacher, so people don't stay very long and they work. So
Can you imagine the liability you have on your vehicle?
My dad drove Uber until he was 92.
plus you're dealing with teenagers.
Well, that'd be a problem. Teach my
But you're only
grandson.
dealing with one or two at a time.
Can I ask a question about a relationship between items E and F?
Sure, let's go back to that.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. In item F, our policies and goals, there was a list, and I'm not looking right at it. I'm hoping I don't misrepresent it, but of the most recent transportation system plan update for each jurisdiction. And then, of course, when we looked at our tip, there's projects in the tip that far predate even the last update. But when we're adding projects to the tip, are we as policy committee members sort of expected to be or supposed to be? Should I be kind of beholden to the guidance documents? Like, each of our jurisdictions would say, okay, here's what's in my most recent transportation system plan. And I understand the community sentiment based on that. Is that the lens through which we should be evaluating?
So, yeah, projects bubble up. So the locals will do their TSPs, transportation system plans. Some of them are recent, some of them are not so recent. Those projects then are recommended or recommended inclusion in the long range plan. And we evaluate those and, then it gets to the tip. That's another, we go through the process where Steve goes out and asks for the locals to recommend projects for inclusion. They've got enough political backing, they've got support, they have money that they can match it with. It's meeting a need. And so they've identified that as their priority for funding now. And then that gets in the tip or that gets put to you guys and considered for inclusion. So there are some projects that have been around for a while that are still in the long range plan that have not made it to the tip for one reason or another. The projects in the tip tend to, except for the exception of the one you found, 2250 or Dokes Ferry.
Was a dart.
That project has been a unique long-term resident for factors that are being on this. Usually they identify that on tip and they're done within a reasonable amount. Unreasonable means like 6 years, possibly 7. Yeah, it's not 20. Yeah, project put an asterisk. Project slip, so 6 or 7 usual. Yeah. So we all want projects to be done in 3 years, but reality doesn't really,
Right,
funding mainly.
right.
Anyway, that's our, materials, so the next meetings, March 24th, yeah, 24th, this committee, we'll have a PAC meeting on March 10th. And, as far as the transition planning update, we went over the, unified planning work program document that we shared in January. So we, sent it out to ODOT, Federal Highway and Federal Transit, and had a meeting with them, and they asked questions about that. So, we're responding to those questions and updating these funding tables and post it online, and then bring it back to you probably in March, not April. So,
And when did you want SKATS member comments on the policies and goals? Cause I think that was an item that was for review and comments.
yeah, this month would be great. You know, if you anticipate adding a goal,
Yeah,
that's one thing. If you just want some changes. Oh yeah, 2 weeks would be wonderful. And then
3 weeks.
So
No.
3, yeah.
because, you know, these will be used and these are used in the criteria to a degree. And so the next, we'll either talk about the criteria in March, or it will be April, depending on how much time the tip needs. Not 4 years.
So with that, I hate to, we would just close a run, but is there anything else for the board? I'll adjourn the meeting. When you guys not get hold of questions or comments you want to talk